A couple of days ago, I had something brought to my attention about the date of Obama's inauguration lining up with Scripture and the date of Yeshua's return. It has to do with the 40 and 2 months that the beast is going to give power to its boy in the last days. Obama was inaugurated on January 20th, 2009. On man's calendar, this is exactly 42 months before the date of Yeshua's return. It was revealed earlier this year that Yeshua will return on the Feast of First Fruits next year to harvest the first fruits into his Father's family. This date will be July 19th, 2012. January 20th, 2009 plus 12 months equals January 19th, 2010. January 20th, 2010 plus 12 months equals January 19th, 2011. January 20th, 2011 plus 12 months equals January 19th, 2012. January 20th, 2012 plus 6 months equals July 19th, 2012. 42 months. Leading up to the past couple of days, it has not been our Creator's time to reveal this about Obama. Now that it is his time to reveal this, I would not even have been able to see this for a couple of reasons. Although I certainly suspected that Obama was the beast's boy. Many people suspect that. One of the reasons that I would not have been able to see this is because I'm always looking at things through our Creator's calendar and not Satan's calendar. The other reason is he has already revealed 2 other tiers to the 40 and 2 month prophecy, so I was not seeking additional understanding on this matter. I am thankful that he has sent somebody to me with this discovery about how Obama fits into the 42 months on Satan's calendar. In a bit, I'll review the other 2 tiers to the 40 and 2 months, what they represent. Most all prophecies have dual applications, and I'm finding out that many have a 3rd tier. Probably all do, but some of them, the 3rd tier, still been hidden. But I would not have been able to see this 3rd tier because I fell into the trap of looking at months from a 30-day standpoint and from our Creator's calendar standpoint. In regards to prophecy, most who study the Scriptures assume that the months are 30 days long in the prophecies. It is bad to assume. The truth is, no one can understand prophecy until it is given to us to understand from our Creator. And He gives understanding in His perfect timing and not before, and to His servants, His prophets. Some will have a difficult time accepting what is being revealed about Obama today because they will want to hold on to the 30-day prophetic month rule. They want to tie in the 40 and 2 months with the 1260 days in Revelations chapter 11, since they are both mentioned in back-to-back verses. They are wise in their own understanding because they think that they have figured something out, since 42 months of 30 days each is 1260 days. So I think they have some discovery here. What they should be asking themselves is why is one period of time referred to as 1260 days in verse 3 and the other period of time in verse 2 referred to as 40 and 2 months if they are referring to the same period of time? Why not have the same description for both? Why are there 2 different descriptions if they are the same thing, referring to the same time? And why do they assume that they are talking about the same period of time? As I just said, it is bad to assume. The reason why they do not ask themselves these questions is because in their theology, they do not have the answers, so they make assumptions to formulate their answers. They think that they can figure out prophecy, so they draw conclusions based on their own reasoning and understanding. But prophecy was not meant to be figured out, not possible to be figured out. The reference to both 1260 days and the 40 and 2 months are prophecies, and the understanding of them it has been hidden. It has to be given, the understanding does. All prophecy is hidden until our Elohim reveals His secrets. Now that this understanding has been revealed, it makes sense that our Elohim would use Satan's months in this instance to kind of mock him. He's saying to him, I knew exactly how you would change the calendar. Therefore, I even hid one of my prophecies in your calendar to prove this to you. Satan changed the calendar in order to keep people away from the truth by keeping them in his deceptions. He was allowed to do this because our Creator was looking for those who would overcome him to become his first fruits. Now he is using Satan's calendar to kind of backfire on him. By using his months on the calendar that people are familiar with, most will be able to see this connection much easier than linking it to 30-day months or to our Creator's calendar that they know nothing about. Therefore, he is doing this to aid in calling them to return to his truth, to return to him. Plus, he is doing this to confound and to even humble those who are wise in their own understanding, think they figured things out. So he is using 42 months on Satan's calendar for a reason. Before going on with Obama, I'll explain briefly the first two tiers of the prophecy of the 40 and 2 months. They are also explained in more detail in the Two Witnesses, parts 1 and 2 videos. In Revelations 11:2, it is a prophecy of both a 402-day period that links the blowing of the sixth trumpet and Yeshua's return on July 19th, and a prophecy of a 402-year half a time that was shortened from 630 years, or shortened from half of the 1260 years. I spoke about that in the Two Witness video as well, so it explains it more. What I don't think that I mentioned in the Two Witness videos is that the 402-year period also lines up with the number of years that the King James will have been in print before Yeshua returns. It is not a coincidence that the King James went to print 402 years before Yeshua returned, before he will return. When it went into print, Yeshua word was made available to the scattered nations of Israel so that they could return to him through it. It just so happens that he prophesied that it would be available to us in the last days. In the following verses, he is talking about returning to him to receive his deliverance. He says that he will deliver us if, and in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 10, if you will hearken to the voice of Yahweh Elohim and guard or hedge about his commandments and his statutes which are written in this scroll of the Torah, and if you will turn to Yahweh Elohim with all of your heart and with your entire life, because these commandments which I command you this day are not a wondrous work, he's saying they are not too difficult, neither are they removed from you. He made sure that the children of Israel would have his commandments that are in his Torah available to them if they wanted to return to him. And we must return to him through them. He says so, not only here in this verse, but in several places. The prophecies are extremely clear about this. Yeshua shed his blood to make this possible by providing an atonement so that we could enter into the renewed covenant with his Father to return in order to become his people. Christianity carries his Torah around with them in their Bibles, but they reject it. They have it available to them, just as he said that they would, but this has not mattered to them. If this is not referring to those in Christianity as the scattered nations of Israel in the last days, who else could this promise of having his word available to them apply to? There is no one else. What other group of people or religious group matches the description of having his Torah available to them in the end time? Goes on in the next verse. They, referring to his commandments that are in his Torah, they are not in heaven that you will have to say, who will go up to heaven for us to bring them to us so that we can hear them and do them. Neither are they across the sea that you will have to say, who will go over the sea for us to bring them to us so that we can hear them and do them. I will make my word exceedingly near to you in your mouth and in your heart. He is saying that if we return to him through his word, we can enter into the renewed covenant and have his Torah written in our hearts and inward parts. Jeremiah 31 talks about this. There is a problem, though. The King James also included the blasphemous writings of Saul of Tarsus, who is the abomination of desolation that is standing in the holy place. Here's what it says in Revelations 11:2. And the court which is outside the temple leave out and measure it not, because it is given to the Gentiles. And the holy city will be trampled underfoot 42 months. People want to say that this is referring to Jerusalem. It is crazy to think this. Jerusalem is not holy in these last days. The revelation of Yeshua says just a few verses later in verse 8 that it is like Sodom and Egypt in the last days. That's what he calls it. And Jerusalem has been being trampled underfoot a whole lot longer than 3.5 years. The Dome of the Rock has been there for about 1,335 years. It is a city of filth and abominations to our Creator. These are prophecies, and they're written in prophetic form. The understanding has to be given. The holy city is the temple that was being built during the time of man, the first 6,000 years. The temple is the first fruits, and it was built with the word of Elohim. It was built with the measuring rod. During this 402-year period, the abomination of desolation was made readily available to the scattered nations of Israel to trample down the truth. For 402 years, those who would become the temple in the New Jerusalem had to overcome the abomination that the beast sent forth during this time. And even before this, because Saul's teachings were already desolating the truth ever since he taught them and wrote his blasphemies. But the 402-year period is referring to a specific time frame when it was to be made readily available. Saul's writings were allowed to stand alongside the truth in the holy place because our Creator wanted us to believe him and not believe Satan's boy. This has all been part of the testing and proving situation that he gave us to overcome, to test us and to try us. It is simple. If we had believed his servants Moses and Yeshua and the rest of the prophets, they testified that Saul's writings are false. Clearly. They testify that he and his writings are the abomination of desolation. It's impossible to refute this. The rest of the world is not being measured. Has not been being measured during this time by the measuring rod. Their actions were being measured for a future resurrection, but not with the measuring rod. They didn't even have it available to them. Judgment begins with the house of Elohim, and the measuring rod is the word of Elohim. The first witness to the truth testified to this as well. He said that all will be judged by his Father's word in the last day. The measuring rod will go out on the wings of the coming calamity, and all who have a desire to turn to him in the last days will have to turn to him through the measuring rod. If they're going to be delivered, they're going to have to cry out for it, cry out to become his children. And we talked about that here a lot recently too, about whosoever shall call on the name of Yahweh and what that means to call out into his name. But up until now, it's been primarily the nations of Israel who have had his measuring rod to pull out his first fruits from the world. John 12, verse 48, Yeshua said, "He that sets me aside," and he represents his Father's word, "and does not seize my sayings, has one that judges him. The word that I have spoken, the same will judge him on the last day." He said that his word is not his, but it is his Father's word who sent him. He became his Father's word in the flesh, and he was given the name, the word of Elohim. He bears his Father's word as his name. Scripture testifies to this. He said that we must live by his Father's every word. He said they didn't come to get rid of one punctuation mark from the Torah. A lot of people want to say he did away with the sacrifices. He didn't do away with the sacrifices. He provided a substitute for him. Saul destroyed this truth in those who followed him and followed his make-believe version of the Messiah. Saul was both Rome's boy and he was his father Satan's boy. And this is because Rome is Satan's network. The historical record shows 1611 on Satan's calendar as the date that the King James was published, but there is a 4-month overlap in his calendar and our Creator's calendar. Knowing the 402-year prophecy reveals that the date that it was first published was in the year 5370 in our Creator's calendar. 1611 overlapped the year 5370 by about 4 months. There is more involved with all of this that proves this about the 402-year period, but this is just a brief overview of it today, and more keeps being revealed as we go forward as well. Now back to Obama. As I showed you in the first slide, it turns out that there is a tertiary or a third tier meaning to the 402 months that applies to another of the beast's servants. In Revelation 13:5, we read, "And there was given to him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given to him to continue 42 months." This certainly is a match for Saul of Tarsus as well, with the 402 years, no doubt, with that period of time standing in the holy place. But it is not a coincidence that Obama came into power exactly 42 months on Satan's calendar prior to when Yeshua will return. It'd be insanity to think it's a coincidence. And all the proof he's given us for July 19th too is awesome. But anyway, Saul was Satan's boy and Rome's boy, but so is Barak Obama, just on a different playing field. He's not standing in the word of Elohim, but he's certainly a factor in what's unfolding. The beast has empowered him to be where he is at. The beast is still Rome, who is controlled by the ultimate beast, Satan himself. The U.S. government is just an extension of Rome with its two horns of government. It certainly is interesting that Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize when he did nothing to deserve it. And just look at the havoc around the world that he and his administration have already set in motion. The world is on fire because his administration has stirred up the rebellions that are taking place all out throughout the globe. They encouraged and fueled the Arab Spring to rise up last January. They actually poured gasoline on it. Just look at how governments have been toppled and such since then. And it's still on fire over there in the Middle East. And he and the powers that are behind him are busy spurring unrest throughout the world, even in the United States. It is all coming to a head. Nations have lined up and have taken their sides. China and Russia have sided with Iran and Syria and North Korea and Pakistan and others. The fuse has already been lit. Our Creator does not need 3.5 years or 7 years of affliction to call those who will come to Him. He is going to make a quick work of this all, just like He said that He would. He said that He takes no pleasure in the suffering of His creation, so why would He cause the world to suffer for 3.5 years if He can accomplish humbling of people in less time? Obama is just a puppet anyway, the puppet master's puppet. But he was brought into power precisely 42 months on Satan's calendar prior to Yeshua's return to be a sign to you. This being revealed at this time is just another of the many signs that He is giving to you to call Him to return to Him. And He is revealing this to show you who He has sent to testify to His truth. And of course His word backs this up as well. But impossible to deny that He has raised me up out of the captivity and plucked me out of the fire. As far as Barak Obama goes, all that I can say today is that beast has empowered him and he is their boy, and the word of Elohim has confirmed it in his prophecies. The stages have been set, but just as Yeshua said, the days have been shortened for the elect's sake. The question is, will those of you in the U.S. use this information to cause you to flee from her? I say this because bad things are coming your way, and soon. There is a second Exodus coming, but it is for the rebellious house of Israel, who will have to endure the time of calamity to humble them so that they'll return to their Creator. Those who will need this time of correction to humble them will be delivered at this later time. But if you can see the abomination of desolation and you want to return to your Creator now through His Torah, Yeshua tells you to flee while you can and don't look back. In Revelations 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Depart from out of her, my people, so that you are not partakers of her sins, and so that you do not receive of her calamity." You just had more confirmation here today of the July 19th date given to you. What will you do with it?